Okay, so on a lighter note, Jim, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about, I guess there have been actually discussions about nation-state threats using hotels as a means to basically get to specific targets. I don't know if this is actually related, but perhaps you can fill us in.
This was an article that I saw on Cylance's blog late last week. There was an announcement that a particular brand of internet gateway for visitor-based networks, it's commonly used in hotels and convention centers and places like that, it had a vulnerability that was pretty serious. They had unauthenticated access to an Rsync daemon that would give you basically access to the entire system. And this was reported to the vendors of the systems not too long ago, but recently enough, and they have provided a patch. But one of the things that was pointed out in this blog post was if they did manage to get root access to these devices, they may actually have access to more than just the web traffic or whatever, the Wi-Fi traffic in the hotel. Mm-hmm. These devices are often integrated into the property management system. So that's the software that is used to coordinate all of the operational functions, front office, sales, planning. Mm-hmm. It can have reservation stuff, point of sale stuff, phone stuff, account receivable, marketing, all kinds of stuff, HR, payroll, could all be part of this property management system. And that's really the scary part is that, with this unauthenticated access to these gateways, they could then have access to a lot of sensitive personal information. Now, fortunately, there was a patch that was supposed to have been released on March 26th. I have not verified that it is actually out, that fixes it. And the other simple fix for it is to block inbound access to the Rsync port, with a IP tables type rule or something. It was I just found it. The vulnerability was reported to U.S. CERT on February 12th, and they coordinated with the vendor. So the patch was scheduled to be released on the 26th.
Okay. So what is the Rsync port? Do you recall?
In this case, Rsync was running on port 873, TCP port 873.
Well, that should be pretty innocuous to block that port, don't you think?
Yeah.
Certainly
and
from the internet.
One of the researchers here did a scan of looking for that port across the internet and found a number of them that were directly accessible from the internet, which is not such a good thing.
Right. Okay. Well, I think this is a good example, and as you're pointing out, that it doesn't really matter. I mean, it does matter. Any device that's connected to the network, or certainly if it's accessible from the internet, is one that you need to be paying attention to because it could become a gateway into other things. If we reflect back on the Target attacks, that ultimately was actually through a third-party vendor HVAC system that they ended up being able to get access into the Target enterprise network and then ultimately get into their point-of-sale systems to perform those credit card thefts and the theft of customer information. And so there really needs to be, I think, on one hand, you want to make sure you have some understanding of what your perimeter is, but on this, I guess the second part of it is we always want to build in layers. Make sure that there are protections if that first boundary is breached, and to be able to to protect the rest of the environment. And the notion of partitioning networks or partitioning off applications certainly is an important part of a good security architecture, right?
So
Stan's nodding yes.
I'm just curious if was a really good reason for the Rsync port to be open on this device in the first place, or is this just a case of poor configuration management, where the vendor should have shut this before they ship the product?
That's a good question. It may have been, I'm just going to take a wild guess, perhaps they had some type of a high reliability function to be able to sync across the devices and keep them synchronized in terms of configuration. That would be a valid reason for it, but obviously you want to design that into it. There's a possibility that in some of the installations they didn't know about the feature or weren't paying attention to that functionality or the concerns they could generate. And I'm just guessing, but that would be one.
Yeah, it isn't clear what the purpose of it was. The high availability is a good possibility, but even then, it should have been authenticated. Use our SSH private keys or something like that to lock it down. This was unauthenticated, so that was a misconfiguration of some sort.
Yep.
As I said, I don't know what the original purpose was, but anything that's got access to the root of the file system as root with no authentication is not a good thing.
Good point.